Hi, my name is Roberto Santibañez, and I am here to teach you some things about Mexican cooking. To understand Mexican food and what Mexican food is today, we have to understand the history of the country and the geographical situation of the country. Before the arrival of the Spanish to Mexico, Mexico was a territory, as you know, situated in between the tropics, but with two very high chains of mountains. So there were many groups of indigenous people. It was basically not one country. It was many, many countries with many different languages and different people that dressed differently, that saw life differently, because some of them were from very high up in the mountains where there's pine tree forest and coffee beans, and then others were down from the coast, others were from the desert, and they all spoke different languages, dressed differently, and guess what? Transformed nature into different foods. So we already had this complexity of this indigenous people dealing, but they also intercommunicated a lot. Before the arrival of the Spanish, there was a huge communication in between all those groups of people. So they all were intercommunicated all the time. And there was, at one point, you know, some hundreds of years before the arrival of the Spanish, there was a little bit of a central government that were the Mexicas, or the Aztecs, and that's what we call Mexico, from Mexicas. And those guys were kind of the rulers, but they didn't change the culture of the people as, for example, the Spanish did. So for many, many thousands of years, those cultures were alive and well, and everybody had their own little country and their own little things. So, you know, that's to tell you how varied the cuisine in the country can be. And now we have the Spanish arriving, and the Spanish basically arrive from the Caribbean to the port of Veracruz. So right here in the Gulf of Mexico is the port of Veracruz. They go all across the mountains and all the way up to the mountains. They conquer Mexico City. That all took like years. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fast, and more in those times, it wasn't easy. They basically now have conquered most of central parts of Mexico. And what were the purpose of the trips of the Spanish was to find a safer route to Asia. So, boom, immediately they do. They found the port of Acapulco. They go out to China and Asia. So, guess what? All that coming and going from Asia and Spain is what has made Mexican cooking so complex and so diverse. But first also we have to understand that the Spanish arrived to Mexico after 8 centuries of Arabic domination. So many things that don't exist anymore in Spain were left in Mexico, like the use of cilantro, like some techniques, like some spices, like some cooking of some sauces. It's from the Arab world. It's not from Spain. Now, for the past 500 years, the Catholic kings abolished all things Arabic in the peninsula. And that's why our foods are not so similar, but they were a lot more similar in the past. They were a lot more similar in the past. Now, they do arrive with all those techniques. You know, one of our national cheeses is the string cheese. There's no string cheese in Europe. There's string cheese only in the Arab countries and in Mexico. And like I said, you know, the use of cilantro and all that stuff. Then they leave from Acapulco to establish commerce with Asia, with China, with the spices and everything. So guess what? Now we use the same spices. We use the cinnamon bark, we use the cumin, we use the cloves, we use the peppercorn that they used in India, that they used in China, but in a different way. And that's what makes us so unique. We took those spices and incorporated them into our cooking, into the cooking of the indigenous people. They did, not me, sorry. They incorporated those, but at a different balance, in a different way. They didn't like the amount of spices that, let's say, the Chinese or the Indians used to put in their food. They took them, they said, okay, well, now I'm going to put a little bit of cumin inside my tomatillo, and it's going to taste really nice. So, but only a little bit, and the balance of spices and things is a very unique thing created in this country. Basically, we have one of the first melting pots in the world. Mexico, it's really, a fusion, and that's what we are. We are the fusion of many cultures, of many years, of different people incorporating different techniques and ingredients into the food. So that is what basically makes Mexican food what it is today.